If you're self-employed, creating income is really only half your battle, right? It's so hard to go out and find customers and grind and sell and all that kind of stuff. And then after you do all that, the other half is you have to figure out how to keep that money. And the IRS is always looking for their fair share and your fair share at the same time. So I wanted to kind of talk about how we report that income to the IRS and what ways that we can help keep more of it directly inside your pocket. So let's start with how that income gets reported to the IRS. And that's reported most of the time if you're self-employed and you do not have a legal business owner directly on IRS Form Schedule C. And what that pretty much is it's your business tax return reported right in your individual tax return. And so how I described who reports on Schedule C, it was a pretty big generalization, but for today's conversation, it's going to be close enough. Please, if you have any questions, talk to your tax professional or give me a call to make sure that you're getting everything reported the right way, right? Because if you're reporting it the wrong way, this entire conversation is moot. So we talked about how hard you work in order to create income, right? And what is income in the eyes of the IRS? This is pretty basic, simple stuff. Did you sell something to somebody? Did you do a service for somebody and they paid you for it? Yes? Boom, income, done, right? It's just that easy. But expenses is where there's a lot of areas where people don't know what they can deduct, what they should be deducting. People feel a lot of times like they want to try to sneak stuff in that doesn't belong there. So I wanted to talk about some of the main areas that we can deduct stuff. One of the largest expenses that most small business owners, self-employed people have is right in mileage. And because it is over 72 cents a mile this year, and it's 72 and a half cents a mile from January 1st through June 30th. And then after July 1 through the end of the year, it's going to be 76 cents a mile. So when you're driving those miles, guys, it's really important that we're keeping track of where we went and when, because those miles add up real fast. I mean, when you think about it, even a 5-minute drive, if you're doing it multiple times, all those miles add up, and every single bit of it means saving money in your pocket. So please keep a mileage log. And guys, in 2026, there's really no reason not to know how many miles you drove. You don't have to odometer watch anymore. You can Google Map from where you were to where you went. It's just that easy. And it'll tell you how many miles you went, and if you went to one particular job site X number of times, you can just multiply it. It's truly that simple. So please keep track of those. And some of the things that we get mileage for is if we're going to job sites, if we're going between job sites, if we're going on supply runs, if we're going to meet with clients, if we're going to look at a job to potentially quote it. All of these things count as appropriate business miles. So keep that in mind. Another area that I'm going to touch base on is in a home office. Now, I am not talking about, if you've got a desk in the garage. No, that does not count. If you have a real home office that you are, helping to do the administrative work from home for your business, that counts. And there's a couple of different ways to do it. One is a percentage of your home, and you get to include all of your expenses, and that's really complicated. And we are not going down that rabbit hole today. There's a much easier method. The IRS actually even calls it the simplified method. And, if you've got a 12 by 12 bedroom, you've got 144 square feet, and you get $5 a square foot. So you can just take however big the room is, multiply it by your $5 a square foot, and you can deduct that as a home office if you have a real home office set up. There's the caveat. So keep that in mind. And then, we've got all of the administrative expenses. If you're buying office supplies, if you've got your personal cell phone is also your business line, that counts. If you are running the home office and, your internet so that you can send emails from home and connect your Bluetooth printers, and all of that stuff. All of those things count as real business expenses. If you're running a website, if you're paying for tax prep, if you're paying for bookkeeping, when you're buying printers and computers and potentially new cell phones, all of that stuff is potentially a business expense. So keep track of that. And then we've got the much more obvious ones that people think about. If you're subcontracting something, if you're paying somebody to show up and help you, obviously that's a business expense. All the supplies that go into your job are a business expense. All of these things add up, and it matters because in last week's video I talked about self-employment tax. And if you're going to end up paying 40% of your net income to the IRS, every dollar that we can chip away at our net income, that's more money in your pocket. And that actually brings me to one more thing that I wanted to touch on just real fast. And this is a tax planning thing, but sometimes it does make sense to spend more money. If you need to invest in something that's a higher dollar ticket item, maybe you need a big widget for a job that's coming up or something of the sort. If you're going to end up paying a lot in tax this year, and you go ahead and buy it, keep in mind the IRS and the state are going to take 35-40% of your net income regardless. So your money's going to go somewhere. So then it becomes a question of, do you want to invest in yourself in your own business, or do you want to hand it over to Uncle Sam? But all of that stuff is much more, it should be discussed not only with your tax preparer, if you've got a significant other, don't just be spending money and say, the guy on the YouTubes told me to spend it. No, don't you dare. Don't you dare. But, sometimes it does make sense to invest in yourself is really the thought that I want you to take away from this. So keep all that in mind. And like I said, there's a whole host of expenses, but really what matters is, pardon me, is please, you've got to keep records too. Don't just take every invoice you get. If you stop at Walmart and you got the family groceries and you bought, some cleaner for a job, please don't just throw the entire receipt into a box and bring it to people like me, once a year. If I look at a Walmart receipt like that, I have no idea what it is that you're thinking, what you're trying to do. I always tell people, I know you don't want to do the bookkeeping end of your business, right? If you wanted to do the bookkeeping end of your business, you would have wanted to become a bookkeeper. But it's such a vital step. Either take an hour or two a week just to update your money in and your money out. Or like there are so many services out there. There is so much software out there. Pay somebody to do it. It's tax deductible. Just so that you're keeping better track of the actual net income of your business throughout the course of the year, but it makes your tax preparation so significantly easier. I really can't stress this enough that even though you're self-employed, you are running a business, so all of that information is reported to the IRS. And, if you're ever going to want a loan for a vehicle, or even if you want to refinance your home, banks ask for all that information. So the better records you have, the more accurate picture you can give of where your business is really at. So please don't take the record keeping side of your business lightly. But if you have any questions about any of it, please give me a call here right at the office. I'm at Advantage Tax and Accounting in Newburgh, Indiana. Our phone number here is 812-490-9600. My name is Mike. I'm happy to talk to anybody, help out if I can. And if you're a client or maybe a future client, we can discuss that. Or if you just need some guidance along the way, I'll see what I can do to help you out. Because together, I believe that we have the advantage.